Let them talk.
And welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and we have another great show in store for you. Since the Election Day show 1 week ago, of course, a lot has happened. Back a week ago, we were talking about basically how both candidates seem to be lacking as far as the social change that people were looking for in our community. However, now we're looking at a whole different picture, and we have to reset and begin again in trying to really understand what happened and what to do about what happened. And I know a lot of people are interested, and because I've been talking to them for the last week straight and going to protests with thousands and thousands. I heard up to 100,000 people at some of these protests, and they've been breaking out all over the country, and they have no sign of letting up. And Mr. Trump is living right here in our midst, so we're going to be obviously ground zero. I hate to use that term, but we're going to be in the middle of it. Let's put it that way. So to get to that bottom of what's happening, or at least to begin exploring the causes and the solutions to the situation that we're in right now, I'd like to introduce our guests from the New York City Revolution Club. We have Amina and Atta, who are here, and I met them a couple of days ago at Revolution Books in Harlem, and we were listening to a very interesting presentation, trying to analyze it, and even amongst the most advanced people I know politically, we're still at the beginning stages of trying to figure out exactly what happened. But one thing we do have is this sort of cool poster. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. And there's www.revcom.us. And there's a lot going on in that poster as far as issues to discuss. In the name of humanity, for once, we're not talking about in the name of any one group. We're not talking about any one country, but all of humanity. Humanity means the world, all 7 billion of us. Mm-hmm. We refuse, in capital letters, to accept a fascist America, which is, can it happen here? We used to always say, can it happen here, without any real commitment to the idea that it could happen here, and now it looks like it is happening here. Mm-hmm. So definitely something to talk about. So guys, I'm looking at your leaflet as well, and you bring up some interesting. Don't stop. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. Rise up, get into the streets, unite with people everywhere to build up resistance in every way you can. Don't stop. Don't conciliate, don't accommodate, don't collaborate. Those are wonderful ideas. Now, let me say this. Our Mayor de Blasio, a liberal Democrat and no revolutionary, he's not exactly saying this, but he's also saying keep up the protests. Are we supposed to get together with even Democrats who are fighting against this fascist takeover America? Is that possible? Even the mayor of New York? Are we going to see some change where the police are going to step back and allow us to protest? Do you see anything like, is this a new era where we're going to have a grand coalition against the Trumpian nightmare, in your opinions?
I mean, I would not call de Blasio somebody who is for the people or for humanity. I mean, he's somebody who presided over kind of a New York police department that has stopped and frisked thousands and thousands of people, black and brown people in particular. He's somebody who has presided over a city that, this is the incarceration, the raiding of people's homes, just contributed, to this genocide, the slow but grinding genocide of black youth and black people in particular, and not just in New York. Obviously, I mean, that's who you specifically are talking about, but if you look across the board as to what America actually represents and the white supremacy of it, so I would not put him in the camp of somebody who actually cares for the people of the world, let alone for the people in New York City. But I guess we will unite with people very, very broadly. We're uniting with a lot of people when we're out in the streets, right? Because there's a lot of people who are not going along with this decision, are not going along with business as usual, and are saying, we've had enough, we got to do something about this. That is a really good thing. I'm sorry, you want
No,
to...
go ahead. No, go
And I'm just saying that's very important, right? So we unite with that, and we've been in the streets with that. But one of the slogans of the Revolution Club is fight the power and transform the people for revolution.
And that's a good segue, because I wanted to ask you, what exactly is the Revolution Club that is presenting this point of view that you just explained? Can you tell me about the Revolution Club, where it began, what it's associated with, and what its goals are?
Well, the Revolution Club is associated with the Revolutionary Communist Party USA, right? But I mean, obviously the club is not the party. The club is where people come to actually get organized, find out about this new synthesis of communism developed by Bob Avakian, find out about how you can actually wield this new synthesis of communism and a scientific outlook on the world to actually wrench freedom from the development and the objective situation, how to actually wage, ideological and political struggle now and get ready for the time when we can actually lead forward, the thousands leading the millions of people who can go forward to actually make a revolution. This is where people get organized to actually make a revolution, So, we're doing work out in all areas of humanity.
Okay, a revolution. All right, that's interesting. Well, we had the American Revolution, which is really, from the British point of view, it's not really a revolution. It was an independence war against British colonialism. But we have the American Revolution. Is this something like the American Revolution or like the French Revolution? In the American Revolution, we had quite a large coalition of people who just wanted independence from England, but they were very broadly outside of that. They were very broadly and loosely united, the original colonies. Or do we have a French Revolution where we have a Robespierre who's going to be chopping heads off left and right after the revolution? I mean, or is there some other? Is it like the Russian Revolution or the Chinese Revolution? How do we translate that to America? Without going, obviously we have a limited time, but just to explain to folks what that means.
Well, I think it is clear to distinguish what type of revolution we're talking about, right? And we do mean actually overthrowing the system of capitalism and imperialism, right? And it even goes in line with your first question in regards to de Blasio, right? This is a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, to use that French term, right? Of one class over another in every corner of this planet, and how it gets concentrated in this country in particular, and the running thread of white supremacy, right? So we are actually talking about getting organized to overthrow that system, and that, and not just overthrow it. We are, revolutionary communists, and we are basing ourselves on the new synthesis of communism by Bob Avakian. And this is where it would encourage people to actually...
What's new about the synthesis?
This is exactly what I was going to say. This is where I actually would encourage people to two things. One, there's a constitution for a new socialist republic in North America. It's a draft proposal, and I would encourage anybody to compare this to the U.S. Constitution, two radically different economic systems, two radically different political institutions to enforce that economic system, and this is actually going for the liberation of all of humanity, for the emancipation of all of humanity. And then two, there is a brand new book that's actually titled The New Communism by Bob Avakian. The full title is The Science, the Strategy, the Leadership for an Actual Revolution on the Road to Real Emancipation, and a radically new society on the road to real emancipation. But this is the question, just to answer, right? Wherever there's oppression, anywhere on this planet, wherever there's oppression, there's always going to be resistance, and it's which part of what you see right now. But without the necessary scientific understanding on what is the problem confronting the 7 billion people on the planet, as you were walking through, and what is the actual solution, and how to go forward, and not just kind of fighting a good fight, but fighting to win, and all the way to human emancipation, well, that's going to take a method and approach that is stripping away the subjective element of what do I think, what does anybody want think, but what does it correspond to reality? And this is the point. This is our first slogan of the club is humanity needs revolution and communism. It's the furthest thing from people's mind, but yet it's still actually what corresponds to reality, to people getting free today. And this is what we're struggling with people over every single day amongst people in the Revolution Club. This is what we actually struggle and wage ideological and political struggle on that.
And let's establish, you guys are not talking, we're not talking about the weather. Because a lot of people, when they think, radical extremist communism, if to the extent they think of it at all, and people my age maybe, they'll think, what does that mean, like the Weather Underground or something like that? Or, it's not that, right? It isn't that
I think it is clear to say, well, what is it that we do mean? And there's this pamphlet, right, on how we can win, how we can really make revolution. Right. To do this, we need to know why we need a revolution. That actually is very very key. Is it just because we're so militant and we're so radical, we're so revolutionary, or is this, again, does this actually correspond to getting free to getting rid of this system? To actually, hold on, let me just say so. But then what we need to do now, right? And what this is the whole point. This is all political and ideological and organizational. This is our strategy right now. I think it's clear to identify what is it that we are talking about and what is it not that we're talking, and what it is that we're not talking about, and then how we could defeat them. We are actually talking about defeating and dismantling this system. And it is clear to actually understand what is a revolution. We're talking about deep growing, discontent, I guess, amongst the ruling class. Some of what you see right now. You are talking about
divided. The ruling class is
there's a lot of infighting going on. There's a deep going crisis of the Republicans and the Democrats and all that. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's kind of looking at things could see the Republican, all the presidency, the whole thing.
The tone of voice of the way they attack each other. You didn't see that even between Stevenson and Ike. You didn't see that even between Kennedy and Nixon. Yeah. This is something at another level. And so,
that's there's a potential there within that, right? For the emperor has no clothes, but for the whole thing to actually dissipate. But you actually do need millions and tens of millions of people vying for a different way out, for actually understanding the illegitimacy of this system.
Was what's happening here that serious that it might lead to that now, or is this a practice run?
What do you mean?
Is this a run for a future time when there's millions, or is this, do you think what's happening today with all these protests and the anger towards Trump actually might possibly be the beginning of this struggle that you're talking about?
But you see, what you got to actually look at is the complexity of reality, right? This isn't something that, you just kind of wish into being. There is a question about, there's thousands of people, as you mentioned, that are really vying for a different way out, and they're right, and that's why the second part of this is rise up, get into the streets, unite with people everywhere to build up resistance in every way you can.
People who want to protest, people,
even
Democrats,
everybody who right
Hillary's
now,
supporters.
There's a lot of them out there. Everybody who right now is not okay with the results of this election, who's not okay with the state of humanity. I mean, she just came from the North Dakota protest. National Day of Action.
We have so much to talk about.
So I'm just saying, everybody right now, right? Everybody has to get in. They are on the right side, but that has to grow. And frankly, people do actually have to get real as to what is the source of the problem.
That's a good talk. Let's go to a minute of the video, just 1 or 2 minutes of the video, and then we'll come back and talk. This gives you just a taste of really how many people. There was one camera couldn't take it all. You would need a whole crew of people out there to film all the thousands and thousands of people who were there. And it's a rare event. I mean, I went through from the '60s till now. It was a long time when there wasn't things like that. Right? And there used to be things like that. It was a long time ago, and it looks like a whole new movement is exploding, which is, I think, an exciting time, but also a dangerous time. Are you heartened by what you see? Was that something exciting to see?
Yes, I mean, even the spontaneity of it, even just, we've been out among these people, and some of them, this is the first time that they've ever been in a protest like this. It's the first time that they've ever even been in a rally or come together with, so much anger and, just fury against the way things are. And, just even to be standing there surrounded by tens of thousands of other people all screaming out, at the top of their voices that this is illegitimate or that this is wrong, this is not what they want. You hear, not my president, we reject the president-elect, another chants like that, slavery, genocide, and war, America was never great.
I've never seen anything like it, actually. Yeah. Even since '73, and I was a kid, I was like this little.
It's quite wonderful.
Yes. So tell me, Amina and Ada from the New York City Revolution Club are here, and we're talking about, how we, and you're wearing your T-shirts, I can see, right? It speaks. If you want to just have people see them there, you can see it right there, and I'm holding the sign. We refuse to accept a fascist America, which is talking about Trump as being a fascist. Which is very interesting, coming right out and saying it, and not, saying, often organizations have been the ones who calm people down. Nixon's bad, but he's not a fascist. Bush is bad, but, don't go so far as to say a fascist. Now everybody's saying the guy's a fascist. Nobody's saying he's not. So, I mean, this is a new development. Things are at a higher level. We're saying the president-elect of the United States is a fascist, pretty much across the board. So this makes me think maybe the guy really is a fascist. Right, and something to really worry about. What does that mean in your minds, fascism in America? What would that mean? How would you define that?
Well, you're starting to see, I guess to just take a minor step back, but it's related to this question. Part of the reason why this flyer was produced, and it was produced in the thousands, and not just in New York City, but across the country, right? And it's up online at this website, the www.revcom.us website. Part of it was because I do think there was an unclarity of, okay, well, what do you mean by fascism? Yeah. What do you mean by American fascist, right? And I think it breaks it down pretty simply in regards to just all the threats that, Donald Trump made throughout the course of his candidacy, right? The xenophobia, the misogyny, right? The anti-immigrant, the really kind of the cohering of white supremacy, the violence, the law and order that he constantly talked about, the nuclear buttons, like all these things. These are all sort of the hallmarks, and really calling out the Democrats, for being an illegitimate party.
He put it all on the table.
He put it, and so there is a question, right, of just kind of. It's important what you're referencing in regards to Bush, in regards to, even going back to even the foundation of this country, right? Where even the Civil War that transformed even America, right? Sure. So there is a question about both the stability of the U.S. and the world, and I would encourage people, there's 2 articles up online that we're featuring by Bob Avakian, and does actually get more into the background, into the substance of, well, what led to this? Sure. What led to where we are right now?
How did we get here?
And
that's at revcom.us,
yes.
Right? Which is the right here at the bottom for folks who can't, there it is for you to read. www.revcom.us, and you can see these articles that are being referenced here.
Yeah, and so there's a lot there in regards to even, what are the needs of the system? What are the needs of U.S. imperialism, right? And then heading in this direction, what are the different policies that are going into effect? You think about even the cabinet, right? That's a lot of contested debate in regards to who's going to be part of Trump's cabinet in office, right? Paul Ryan, Chris Christie, Giuliani. These are all people who have proven time and time again that this is that they do want to maintain America, but the reactionary side of America, the white supremacy of America, the misogyny of America. This is a cohesive package that we saw.
Crime type of thing, you know, it has this weird organized crime feel, like we're bringing in organized crime or something around the country, as if it hasn't been in the past, but it's more obvious now.
Well, that's part of the elements of fascism, right? That is part of the elements of the enforcement of dictatorship, the brute authority.
It becomes to feel like a hit job with a bunch of gangsters, you know, more so than statesmen even. You know.
Well, this is why it matters. This is why it matters for people to read this short statement, this short flyer, right? It's very it's very short. It's very condensed. But then also, to let a lot of people know, because I actually do think, even the third part, the don't stop, don't conciliate, don't accommodate, don't collaborate.
That's important. That's very interesting. Those words, and I like to focus on that and finish. Don't stop. That means don't stop the protesting. Mm-hmm. Don't conciliate. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the role that the Democrats tend to play, is, in this sort of the pyramid of the structure of the ruling class, is to conciliate. I mean, maybe once in a while they don't agree with the way the other side, the side that's more appealing to the more reactionary and fascist base in society, maybe they don't necessarily agree with their policies, but their role is not to whip up, anger or whip up their own base, the more liberal progressive base against that. Their role is to kind of conciliate, to go along with that, to kind of more or less pacify the people. And this is saying, don't conciliate. You're beginning to hear, even in like mainstream politics and even in like entertainment, maybe it won't be that bad. Dave Chappelle on SNL, maybe you can just kind of go along with it, but it's wrong and it's deadly to even be promoting ideas like that. So we know this is saying don't conciliate. Don't even consider going along with this. This is not business as usual.
Right, good. Now, Ada, I want to take a minute. We have about 7 more minutes, and I wanted to ask you about, you just returned from the pipeline, and people were protesting against the Dakota access pipeline. And this isn't the main reason why you're here, but since you were just there, maybe you could run a quick report for us on what's been going on.
I was at the protest downtown,
but
we do have revolutionaries who are reporting from North Dakota. That's also on revcom.us. Actually, you can get reports that are actually coming right from North Dakota.
So you were at a protest right now?
I was at the protest downtown.
And where was that?
That was at Foley Square. It was by the Bowling Green, downtown Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah, that one was like, hundreds, and I think I did speak, it was almost about 1,000 people who had, gathered together to stand in solidarity with the Sioux tribes and the other, hundreds of native tribes that have showed up to stand, at Standing Rock.
Right, at Standing Rock, right. And how does what's happening at Standing Rock relate to what we're talking about? I
mean, there are these 5 stops that we have on our website, RevCom, that, are concentrations of like key contradictions in the system that cannot be addressed, under capitalism, imperialism, which is can be addressed under the system. And one of them is the destruction of the planet, and this is what is going on. I mean, not only are you seeing the genocidal persecution of these native peoples, every treaty that has been made with the imperialist U.S. forces has been broken. You're seeing the destruction, the wanton destruction of the planet.
Every
treaty.
Every treaty? Come on, it can't be every treaty. Hundreds of treaties. Every single one of those treaties.
Yep.
Of course, you're right. But I had to say it that way, right? Because it's hard to believe when you say every treaty, come on, they didn't break every treaty, but they broke every treaty.
They did. And this is in line with, these 5 stops that are up on the website, this is in line with actually the key contradictions that actually do need to be gone to work at if we're going to be able to make this revolution. We do need to be able to call out the system and its legitimacy for what it is, but actually go to work at this. Actually use this to leverage more people to actually come into realizing that if there was a way to do away with any of this under the system of capitalism without a revolution, well then, bring it on, put it on the table, but it just isn't.
Right. Now, in the midst of all that, I've seen a number of events. I've seen on your website, I also saw with my own eyes when I was down in Philadelphia, the American flag being burned, or some might say desecrated, but which is legal, and perfectly, believe me, I know it's legal. I was there in Dallas when it was done and made legal. But tell me how it was that you have come, or your organization comes to support this idea of burning the American flag. Isn't that undermining the unity that, won World War II, the unity that brought us a civil rights movement, the sort of national unity that might change this or hold back against Trump? Isn't there something good about America? Are we burning it all when we burn the flag?
Yes. And that's a really good thing. I mean, you know, the revolution clubs went to the Republican National Convention and it went to the Democratic National Convention. And at both sites, it burnt the American flag, along with Joey Johnson, who was
in Dallas.
Standing
right next to me when it happened.
case you referenced, right? The Texas versus Johnson, that won the legal right on the federal level to actually have this be constitutionally
and I didn't
protected
see who did
free
it.
speech.
I just saw the thing burning. I didn't know.
And so, you know, but we did, you know, I think she was referencing a chant earlier, right? It does concentrate a lot, you know, slavery, genocide, and war. America was never great. And we did, there's a national organizing tour that started off in Chicago and then it went back to Cleveland because people are facing, they got arrested at the doorsteps of the Republican National Convention. 16 Revolution Club members, along with Joey Johnson, got arrested for burning this American flag.
Which is legal, so how can you be arrested for that?
Exactly.
It's legal expression.
And so there's a whole court battle that's going on, and people could also find that. And
they're saying lighting the fire is against the law.
You know, there's even there's a lot of exposure that we've begun to do, and that actually other different organizations also somewhat contributed to it. But the heart of it is that it actually, the authority to arrest could have come all the way, you know, all the way from the highest levels of authority, including from Donald Trump. I mean, you know, Alex Jones was probably the most vicious, virulent one that was attacking.
My right-wing alter ego. Alter ego.
You know, and all the security and all the threat that came down at the convention. So this is actually a battle that's being taken up that we want to drop the charges because it's constitutionally protected free speech. People can go onto the website, find out more information. But I guess my point was that it does actually concentrate. We were in an organizing tour that got launched that says, you know, don't vote, overthrow. And that's sort of the heart of America was never great. You know, it was never great. It was never great.
Civil War, World War II.
But you even think about that, right? That it actually took a civil war to, quote unquote, free black people. Kind of system does that. It is a question about whether this is legitimate or whether it's completely illegitimate. I think there's a lot in this third part of this Don't Stop, Don't Conciliate. It does actually take people really confronting the totality of the reality here and transferring their allegiance to the people of the world and not to whatever solar safe space that you could attain in this country. Because why? Because it's off of the backs of millions of people all over the world.
Well, they seem to, you know, they fought fascism in World War II and then ended it by dropping an atom bomb on a defeated country and killing all those innocent people for no reason. I mean, they tend to always find a reason. I mean, they had the Civil War for a few years, and then it was Jim Crow and Michelle Alexander's book.
And the new Jim Crow. There's nothing. This country is thoroughly rotten, and this country sits on top of the world. This is a thoroughly rotten country, but it's also thoroughly rotten.
What's it going to take to change it? How are we going to change it? Like what?
We got to get organized for an actual. We got to get organized for an actual revolution, and that's what the Revolution Club is part of, and that's what I would encourage everybody, if they want to put a stop to all the horrors, if they're agonizing about the state of humanity, this is the organization to join up with. Because we're fighting the power and transforming the people for revolution. We're preparing the ground, we're preparing the people, we're preparing a party, the Revolutionary Communist Party, for the time when millions can go all out to actually win, to defeat this system. That's our mode of existence, and that's why we're calling on people to get with. You don't have to know everything, but you do got to be part of the fight to get free.
Okay, Amina, and Ada, last word, Ada?
Yes, go onto the website, www.revcom.us. You can actually keep up with the movement for revolution and find out how to be a part of this.
Great.